guys, welcome to our channel called Marshall's Journey. I'm Christina, his mom.
And I'm his dad, Maurice.
And this is Marshall that's currently eating right now. But today we're going to be talking about our labor and delivery experience and becoming first-time parents with a newborn. And so it all happened November 13th. We ended up going to the doctors and I got a cervical check, which by the way hurts. But I got 1 centimeter, I was 1 centimeter and 50% effaced. And that's not very good to be 38 weeks at that time. So we ended up going in and he said that we can be induced to get everything rolling. I said, yeah, we'll go ahead because I wanted to, to have a natural birth. And we ended up getting a phone number from our doctor to call in at 12:30 to see if there was any beds available. And at that moment when we called in, we set up all night and we called in and there was no beds available. So we, of course, got upset. And from there they said that our Bishop score wasn't right. So we had to go in the next day to get it all checked out and make sure that we had the correct Bishop score. November 15th is at 10:30 a.m. I had an NSD, which I was by myself for the very last time. I believe I do have a video of his final heartbeats with me. But I was back there by myself, and then, of course, they brought Maurice back for the actual doctor's visit. But when we got checked,
Before he said that, Florian walked in and said, he came in with the glove, and he was like, alright, you ready to do this?
Yeah. He kept telling us every time we'd come, you guys ready to have baby soon, or you guys ready to have a baby today, and all that, but,
So she laid down, and I would go up there and stand with her, and she would hold my hands as tight as she could while he checked. But this time it was a little different. He was kind of moving around differently. It looked like he was taking a lot more time than he usually does.
It hurt 10 times more this time around.
He stood up and he scooted out of the stool and he took his glove off and said that was his butt. And this guy was head down for 4 months. And then the last second he flipped upside down. And so the doctor gave us an option. He said we could try to push the baby around and try flipping him upside down. Or we can try to have a C-section.
And I asked if it hurt, and he laughed at me and pulled my curtain that I was pretty much using. Pulled it up and said, yup, we're having a C-section tonight. So he gave us enough time to go home, get our things, and as well eat. He told us not to tell anybody we ate, but he told us to make sure we yeah, he told us to make sure we eat because we weren't eating all morning because of the test, and I get nauseous having cervical checks.
So we came home and we stopped at Taco Bell to get our lunch, and we tried hurrying home and tried getting everything all ready.
I had a bean and cheese burrito, and you had a
box.
Oh yeah, he had a box. I came home and I remembered I jumped right in the shower right away because all the videos they said you want to take that last final shower. And then we all got ready, jumped in the car, and we're headed to the hospital. We ended up going there at 1:25, and we sat in the lobby and waited till 6:30. So it was a pretty long process. There's people coming in, people going, people eating when I'm not supposed to be having anything to drink at all or eat.
So we were trying to pass the time by. We were trying not to get because the room was pretty small. It was probably only like 8 by 10, and there's a bunch of chairs in there, a bunch of people in there. And so we pulled out our iPad and we started playing Scrabble together on there because that was the only thing we could do. So we probably played Scrabble for like 2 hours until we were like, okay, we need to find something else to do. We need to figure out what's going on.
And then they called me back to see how everything was going and why I was there, because I was already checked in at this point. But I went back there. They didn't even know I was there to get induced. I guess our doctor never told anybody. He just filled it in his own schedule. But we ended up getting a room at about 6:30. And from there, it kind of just flew by. We watched Impractical Jokers?
We watched Impractical Jokers for about 2 hours before anybody even came in. And we were sitting there looking at each other like, you ready? Because
yeah, I was naked under a gown. And Then finally doctors came in, and anesthesiologists came in, introduced themselves. Everyone from the team introduced themselves. They said that they were working together for 10 plus years and that we were in good hands. And then you got into scrubs.
Yeah, they gave me scrubs to wear, which, fortunately, it's a short sleeve scrub, and they said none of your clothes could be showing where I was wearing a long sleeve that I could not roll up, but I also didn't want to wear the scrub that I had to take off in 20 minutes in front of them. So I had, what did I have to do? I had to pull it up as tight as I can. You could see I was losing blood to my arms because it was too tight.
So then they started explaining that they were going to start poking me with an IV to get that inserted so I can go into the OR, which is the room where everything's done. It's the operating room. But they stuck me 3 times and they left me bruises everywhere because they just couldn't get it right. It's the point where they had people change to a different person because they couldn't do it. And then we got separated. I got pulled back there and I didn't see you for a while.
Yeah, they took you to the operation room, and they took me to the recovery room. In the recovery room, I was by myself. It was dark. They had me in a corner sitting by myself, and I had all of our stuff. And I think I sat back there for like 20 minutes before anybody actually came for me. And it was very nerve-wracking because I knew that when I go in, she was going to be ready for surgery, so she's going to have to go through all her spinal taps and everything. And I felt kind of useless because I wasn't there. But at the same time, it was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Just sitting there waiting.
On my end, I was tied down to a table. Well, first they brought me in there. It was cold, like really cold. I think it was probably like 50, 40 degrees in there. It was to the point where I was shivering because I was nervous because I've never had surgery. And this one would be a major one, but at the same time, I was also really cold. So they put warm towels on me and told me to scrunch up like a cannonball, but to keep kind of like my shoulders back, just so they can get in my spine. And they did the spinal tap, and I think they counted to about 5 or 6, and it hurt. It hurt really bad. From there, I kind of groaned, and they said, it's almost done. And then from there, I told them, hey, I can't feel my feet, and they're like, oh, we're supposed to put me on the table now. So they ended up helping. I had to help them put me on the table, so like my dead weight, and then they started putting a catheter in me. I felt a little bit of that, but nothing too big. And then after that, they sat there explaining what they were going to do, but I told them I felt nauseous, and the lady I was talking to, which was my anesthesiologist, she said that I was looking like I was yellow. Like I was completely changing colors, and she knew something was wrong. So she told me to throw up, but I don't like throwing up, so I didn't. And I held it in, and she's kind of swabbed my nose and my upper lip with alcohol, rubbing alcohol, so I can, not throw up. And then my color got back, but I don't like feeling claustrophobic either, and I was under an oxygen mask, and it sucked being tied down completely and monitors all over me and just kind of not feeling anything at all. And to be doing this all on my own, because he's not allowed in the room at all, was definitely the most scariest part, because I was looking at a white ceiling and lights the entire time. And then occasionally someone's head would pop over saying, oh, I'm so-and-so, this is what I'm doing, this is my part. And then from there, they said my name a million times, and then they said why they were there, so they said C-section. And everyone had to repeat it out loud multiple times, and then you walked in.
Yeah, I walked in, and it was very uneasy seeing her tied down. She said she had an oxygen mask, she was tied down, and they had a curtain, which I know there was supposed to be a curtain, but the curtain itself was probably like 5 feet from right here, so it was very cramped in that little area, and there was tons of equipment surrounding the room, and there's like 10 to 15 people in there, so it was a very chaotic environment. And once they started actually operating on her, the table was like rocking like this, and I was trying to sit there and talk to her, but she was so under that she looked out of it, but she was still conscious. And
I remember telling you I can't breathe. For like 3-4 seconds, I felt like I couldn't breathe at all, because they were pushing so hard. I felt like someone was just sitting on my chest and wouldn't get off of it.
And our doctor and the guy that was helping him, the whole time we're up there, she can't breathe. We're kind of freaking out, and they're down there talking about what they're gonna have for Thanksgiving, what they're gonna do for it, and eventually we heard his cries for the first time, and
The doctor popped him over the curtain and said, "You have a cute baby. He's so precious." And that just melted our heart. And the anesthesiologist looked at us and said, "You guys did that." And I felt like I was crying. He said I only shed a few tears, but it's weird and feeling like you're crying, but not feeling the actual feeling of crying with your gut. So that was the most awkward and weirdest experience ever, was not being able to feel my emotions with my body.
I had a little face mask to cover my mouth, so I guess my hair stayed to me. That thing was soaked.
Yeah.
Because
And your
that
head
caught
was on
all
my
my
head.
tears.
Your head was on my head.
Yeah, because I couldn't take the whole moment in at one time calmly. That was such an amazing moment. But afterwards, the doctor he brought up to us that he was like, "Hey, Christina, there's good thing we didn't try to flip the baby." He said we wouldn't have been able to anyways. He said you have a bicornuous uterus, which pretty much means her uterus is shaped like a heart.
Yeah.
So what they said happened was he was head down the whole time, and then there was like the second pocket up here that we didn't know about, which probably caused her polyhydramnios. And somewhere in it he flipped, so his head went into the pocket, and so his butt was down, and that's what caused us to have this C-section.
Yeah. And then after that, what, you went and cut them up?
Oh yeah, they pulled me off to the side, and they had like a little heating pad that had a scale for him and had everything to measure him and weigh him for the first time. And they had me cut his umbilical cord, and his umbilical cord was very skinny and limp, which was not what I expected. And they held off a certain edge. I just had a cut, and then they had me go sit back down. But when I turned, I got to see her on the table all opened up. And there was like this big tea stand with a ton of pockets full of cloths that were all bloody. And it was a crazy moment because everything, we woke up in the morning kind of a little disappointed that we weren't going to have him yet. We were going to have to wait for a while. And so they had a room open, and then later on that night, she had to go through surgery so we could have this little guy right
Mind
here.
you, we were such in a rush to get him out because the last part of my pregnancy was painful. I was constantly taking baths and constantly in pain, and it was one of those, I just want him out, I don't want him in me anymore. But now that he's out, it's like, I miss him in me. But after that, he left to go get his footprints done and his handprints, and to make sure that all that was done, and he stood by his side while I was in there getting stitched up. And that was definitely the longest part because I was drugged up, obviously on medication because I'm numb and don't want to feel pain. And I just remember staring at a white ceiling, just kind of, thinking time's taking forever. And then they ended up taking me to the recovery room. Well, they slid me off the table onto the bed, and they took me to the recovery room where I met these guys at, and I got to hold him and, latch him on and breastfeed him. Of course, we had like skin-to-skin contact at first, but we didn't have it long because it's kind of hard when you're not feeling 100% there, and when your arms are like this forever,
Even
you
then,
put 'em up
you
and
had,
they're numb.
You had your gown on, so it wasn't really that much skin to skin, and I was holding him on her.
Yeah.
So it was kind of what we could at the moment, but once we got into that recovery room, that's when we truly got to have that skin-to-skin bonding time.
He breastfed like a champ. Well, he latched on no problem. He was hungry coming out the womb. Latched on no problem. And we sat there and he kind of just soaked it all in, took our pictures, and kind of
Made
just
the
said
phone-
we did it. Made phone calls, family. Had family come visit us while we were there.
It was a very memorable night. They took us all the way down to the postpartum room afterwards, and our room was right by where the main entrance was. And they told us, "Oh, don't bring your stuff in. You just leave your stuff out in the car, and once you get in your postpartum room, you can go get it." So I leave the way they told me to, and I come back the way they told me to because I forgot our key, so I had to get the car keys. And then I had to call them to let me in. They're like, okay, we'll let you in this time, but next time you have to go in through the east. And so I go back out. I ask again. I was like, how do I get out to the car and come back? Because they told me something different. And then eventually I went the way I was supposed to go, and there was a security guy over there. I said, hey man, I got a question. They told me I have to go in through the east entrance to get up to the car and get our stuff, but because I just went that way and it was locked. And he kept looking at me, and he would look down the hallway, and he was like, but that way's closed. It's like, yeah, I know. And he's like, but you can't come in through there. I know. He's like, it's after hours. It's only open during day hours. It's like, I know. So we went on. He took me on a little tour. It was pretty cool. Eventually, I was able to get our stuff, and we went back. I think that time it took like an hour for me to walk 500 yards to the car and back. Plus two, I had to go through the emergency room to talk to a security guy in there, and he would let me in. And it looked funny because I looked like I was making hot laps in there because they kept popping in and out of there with and without stuff.
And then from there, while he was gone, they were sitting there trying to get me onto the bed and all dressed and, make sure down there was all clean. And then they gave me Marshall, and after that, he ended up going to bed when he came back, and I got to get up and walk for the first time, but it was, I think only a few hours after surgery. We were done. He was born at 8:19, and I was walking at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Already just walking, and so me and Marshall and the nurse ended up going for a walk while he was sleeping. I experienced his first bath while he was sleeping. I got changed, all the pads and stuff got changed while he was sleeping. Everything happened while he was asleep.
But I got the diapers.
Yeah, he got the nasty tar diapers. But it was definitely weird to have someone dress me. 'Cause I'm used to doing it, but they ended up having to do that until I think the second day I was able to go to the bathroom myself. But by the third day when we left, for sure, when we were out of there, I was down to pretty much the little maxi pads that people are just regularly using on periods. So I went from a big old diaper to that in only a few days.
Which we were told, you have to fart before you can leave. And so we asked them, do we have to fart before we leave?
And they said no.
They kept telling us, no, you don't have to. And we were supposed to leave at 12. And at 11:30, they're like, have you farted yet? And we're like, no.
No one told us.
We didn't know we were needing to try for that. And they're like, oh, well, you can't go until you fart. So we're walking up and down the hallways. She's like trying to do yoga as best as she can.
See, because
chewing gum.
Yeah, no one told us because they were so busy on the whole bicornuous uterus. They're sitting there, students are coming in and out, feeling my stomach, like checking out Marshall because he came from a bicornuous uterus. It was kind of like weird science experiment.
I guess it's such a rare thing that it doesn't really come through very often. So when it finally did come through, it was like, this is a once in a lifetime thing. You better go learn about it.
Yeah. So then we ended up leaving the hospital. He got the car. I ended up having to walk. They didn't even give me a wheelchair. They made me walk, and they had Marshall in the car seat ready to go.
Which they said, all right, you're parked over there. Okay, just pull up to the entrance right there. Wrong entrance. They need to learn their east and west a little bit better. But we didn't have our car for it. We'll make another video about that. That's a whole
separate issue.
That's a whole separate deal. But the car we were in was nice. It was cool. But it smelled like weed the first day. And that was such like, man, we gotta get this car. But it was fine by the time he was born. But it was nice because our car's small and this car was kind of big, so it was nice to have him in there with the car seat for the first time, and she sat in the back with him for the first couple rides, and it was nice having that change. But man, that drive home, I felt like I was looking in the rearview mirror than I was more on the road, because it was just like, he's back there, it was very nice. It was so comforting knowing that whole 9 to 10 months was over, and now we have him. Like, now we have a whole lifetime of journeys to go through.
Mm-hmm. I think overall our child birth experience, C-section wise, went so smooth. Everything went so perfect. He was such a perfect baby, never cried, nothing. Didn't really give us problems, just cried to eat a little bit here and there, but that's normal, that's a baby, you know. But I think overall it was wonderful. I had a really good experience at the hospital.
It was a very quick couple days. Oh yeah. We had to go out on separate occasions to get food because they would feed her, but they wouldn't feed
Yeah.
me. And that was kind of like,
They only worried about the mom, not the dad. I guess it was rare, maybe, but
the first day we were there, we tried ordering 2 breakfast burritos. And they come in a big platter like that big for a little burrito like that. And they told me on the phone, and I quote, "We can't fit 2 entrees on 1 plate."
yeah. So overall, I do it.
Yeah, I would do it again for sure. It's just a little worrisome with the C-section, but I mean, it'll be easier this time knowing how everything goes and how the recovery and everything building up to it will go.
It was nice to have it on the 15th because I'm the 3rd,
I'm the 9th.
and now he's the 15th, and that's 6 days apart from each other. So we have a birth month all together.
So we have a pretty narrow window we gotta hit with the next one.
Give this video a thumbs up,
Like, comment, subscribe.
and we'll see you on our next video.